Wow, so many excited faces. I think we have a clear mirror of our own excitement to be on stage, and I have to admit I'm extremely nervous, not because you all look so excited, but we had a dinner last night, and it took 4 hours, and we could have easily gone 4 more hours to discuss everything we wanted to talk about, and now we have the challenge to put this into 24 minutes and 20 seconds. So please bear with me. If there's any questions that you have after the panel, we're here, and we can discuss them. We want to talk about ownership because we think ownership is one of the most crucial topics of our time. And I brought 3 wonderful panelists who will tell us their stories and who will help us understand the topic of ownership in the next 23 minutes. I think I will, before I introduce them, I would like to take 1 second to kind of fly us into the topic, to frame the topic so we can all follow the conversation from the same starting point. Let's start at taking out our magnifying glass and looking at the economic system. So if you take it out and you look at the economic system, you see one equation that's the principle that dominates our system. It's money equals power, right? If you have a lot of money, you can buy a lot of power. And I think in 2025, I don't have to explain that equation to anyone. It's very obvious in a lot of the transactions you see. But my name is Annika, I work for the Purpose Foundation, and we are a nonprofit that decided or that found that ownership can be a really important puzzle piece to change this equation and to create an economy that serves us, that serves the planet, and that does not only serve shareholders. And if you take out your magnifying glass again, and you look at what ownership actually is, it's 2 things. It's 2 rights, actually. It's the right to earn. You own the right to earn in a company, and it's the right to decide. And usually these rights are bundled, right? If you're Elon Musk and you buy Twitter, you buy the bundle of ownership. You can decide and you can earn. And now there's entrepreneurs, and I think the stage would, if we could put all these entrepreneurs on the stage, they would go around the whole of Shoreditch. There's these brave forerunners who say, this traditional understanding of ownership does not fit with my company. It does not fit with the vision and the mission that I want to bring in the world. It doesn't fit with my values. And so they do the brave thing. They cut the equation of money and power. And now we want to hear their stories of how they do this and what this actually means and what this changes in the companies, but also maybe for us as a whole, as a society, and for us as employees. So, all 3 of you, could you start with very briefly introducing your company, what you do? Stephan, you want to start?
Sure.
Yeah.
I wait 1 second. There's many people coming.
Yeah. Come in. Go ahead.
So first of all, very great to be here. Thank you so much for having us and letting us talk about this very important topic that I experienced, or that I experienced the very downside of traditional ownership and the upside of the great model that Annika is bringing us all together for has. And my company, Stapelstein, and you can read somewhere how you spell it, is caring deeply for movement and play. So we care for something very basic, a need that we all have, and especially children have, and we care too little about it. So we design solutions, and you can, I don't know if you see it. Yeah, we design objects that inspire kids to move and play, as simple as that. And you can tell that this purpose is made to be protected, so we don't want this purpose to be misled by the greed or temptation for greed. But I founded the company with 2 investors, and I think we talk about it in a second, and in a traditional model, and we're super happy to be in the Steward-Ownership model now.
Yeah. Pollien, you want to?
Yes, thank you. Wonderful to see all these people here. My name is Pollien. I'm impact strategist and CEO at Voys. And the easiest way to explain Voys is, I think everybody here has once called a business. So either to buy something, to lodge a complaint, to make an appointment at your GP. All those calls go through a phone system. And Voys is a Dutch telecom operator, and we develop, deliver, and support such a phone system. And we do this in over 55 countries. We are a fully licensed operator in 8 countries, and we have offices in 3 countries, and we work with about 150 colleagues. The company was started over 20 years ago, and it was always started with a bigger mission than just having a financially successful company. We wanted to contribute to equality in the world, and we wanted it to be a place where people can work together equally. So it feels really weird to call myself the CEO, because formally we don't have a CEO, because it's a self-managed organization. Yeah, I think that's it for now, right?
I want to know some more about the beginning, but let's first hear Emma, the company that you founded.
Sure. Hi everyone, my name is Emma, and I'm one of the co-founders of a company called Library of Things. So we started, me and 2 friends, about 10 years ago, pretty frustrated with environmental destruction and typical retail, which makes you spend money that sometimes you don't have on things that break really easily and are made in a very cheap and destructive way, end up in landfill, and you have this very transactional relationship with your stuff. And we'd kind of been looking around the world for more hopeful examples and found tool libraries and toy libraries and these kind of models emerging, which I guess on some level is rethinking ownership of like our stuff and our things. And we wanted to bring that to our neighborhood in South London. So we started a Library of Things very much as a kind of community experiment around, can we make borrowing better than buying? So you'll save money, you meet your neighbors, you learn skills in repair, and you kind of have this, multiplier effect of benefits. Roll forward 10 years, we have more than 20 libraries of things that we operate within just London. And there's a whole movement around libraries of things that have taken off around the world. And the bit that you don't kind of see sometimes about the business is that we had to also create a technology business, and that technology is also being used by groups running community-led item rental across Wales, or in student-led housing in Spain, and all these kind of weird and wonderful contexts.
Maybe, Emma, if you think about when you started off founding the company, your early founding days, you had this very clear idea that if you do this and you have this very strong mission, a normal traditional ownership model doesn't fit, right? What was the key, or what were the reasons why you felt so strong about this? Why didn't you just you called the next VC and said, here, take 60% of my company and give me money so I can grow as fast as possible?
Yeah, so thinking about the ownership of the company itself, we always had the sense that this is an idea that as founders we wanted to bring into the world. We just thought it's like such a simple idea, this deserves to be in the world, it has so many benefits. We did what a lot of community-led initiatives do, and we structured as a non-profit company in our early days, and we used that company for the first 4 years, very bootstrapped, we were all volunteers. We were getting inundated with requests from groups around the country and around the world to help them start libraries of things. And we had this feeling of like, this needs an injection of capital of some kind. We're too limited by these small charitable grants. We did some local crowdfunding, but this thing is keeping us small. And we actually need to build our own tech platform. We can't just keep mashing together things that exist that just aren't gonna work. So the moment for us was we need to raise capital, and that needs to come from outside the company. And given our kind of roots in the community and our customers and our whole brand, which has a lot to do with trust, like you need to return that drill when you borrow it. We were wary about bringing in this what could be seen as an extractive investor profile into the organization and breaking these relationships. And for our team at the time and for our community, that was a really important thing. And then also as founders, we always said, we started the company in our early mid-20s. We might be the right people to run this for 5-10 years, but oftentimes it needs new leadership at certain points.
And you wanted to make sure that then you wouldn't have to sell in order to
Exactly.
get out.
So it can be with typical ownership, you get a bit stuck as the founder if you're the main shareholder. So I can share more how we did it, but we had this feeling of, okay, we want to bring investors in, and they need to be partners, and they need to put the mission and the values of the organization first. Like that needs to be their motivation too.
Yeah, and not just shareholder value as the number one goal, right?
Yeah.
I would love to jump over to Voys, because we had dinner last night, as I said, and Mark, the founder, was there too. And so he told us 20 years ago he founded a company, and for the first 5 years it was bootstrapping. He didn't want to take on investors because he didn't want to give away the ownership. That was so clear for him. And so for 5 years he didn't pay himself a thing, which I find crazy, which is in retrospect very noble and a very wise decision, but I mean it must have been very hard. You started 7 years ago. Can you tell us a bit about, okay, so this was always the understanding of Voys, but then 2 years ago something crazy happened. What happened and what did you do? What did you have to do with it?
Well, like you said, the company, Mark started the company 20 years ago, and he always had a very clear picture that he didn't want outside investors. So he wanted the company to be what his vision of the company was, and he wanted it to be independent. And fortunately that worked, because the company began making money, but it has always been bootstrapped. So we've never had investors. Another shareholder with a minority share came in, and he had the same ideals. Which is a very good system, because Voys is very stable. The people that work there feel like this is the normal way of working together. I don't think if you ask any of my colleagues that they ever felt like they worked for a shareholder, they worked for profit. Nobody felt like that, even though we had two, in the traditional model, shareholders. The problem was that this whole system that we built was based on the intrinsic motivation and the ideals of the two shareholders, which is fine when they're there, but it also keeps them prisoner in their own business, because they can't leave, because as soon as they sell the company, then that whole foundation goes away. So we had to look for a way to replicate that strong idealistic image of what the company should be and should always stay, in a way that would free them from the company and would future-proof Voys. So for us, this felt very natural to do this. We started this process 2 years ago. I did a presentation internally for my colleagues to say, hey, just a heads up, we're going to be working on the ownership model of the company. It's going to be roughly this and this. There's going to be some foundations involved. And my colleagues were like, yeah, sure, fine, sounds logical. I don't think much will change. And everybody went home. And in that same week, Mark always sends out a monthly newsletter. And he needed some content. So he asked me, do you think it's okay if I just put in like a little article that we're going to do this? Sure, fine, put it in. That article was picked up by a journalist, and the blog went completely viral. It had over 1 million views. And after the weekend, my colleagues came up to me and they asked, did I not understand your presentation correctly? I thought we were just doing this thing that felt really logical, but I was at the birthday of my grandmother and somebody asked me if I was now the new owner of Voys. What's happening? What are we doing? And that really showed us that what has always felt really normal and natural to us was not normal and natural to the outside world. There it was perceived as this very weird move. Why would you give away your company? And that was a very pivotal moment for us to see, like, are we crazy or is the world crazy?
Well, I think the world is crazy, and that brings us to Stephan and his story. To take you back 10 years, Stephan is a designer, and as a university project you designed the Stapelstein, and it was such a success that you decided, okay, I'll do the brave thing. I will make it into a business. And you were super thrilled. You always say that there were business angels who said, oh, we believe in your idea, and then you did something, and you realized something later what that meant. Can you...
Exactly. So I think the story of our company is at the very core what companies are originally made for. I had a purpose first, and the reason to bring something into the world. I was not founding the company in the sake of founding a company or being an entrepreneur. I kind of stumbled into it. So I was very lucky finding 2 business angels that would give me some money at the beginning, and I was trusting them because I was obsessed with design and I really wanted to design these products in order to bring the purpose to life. And by having this company founded eventually, we were very successful very fast. So after 3 years we were profitable already, and we made like our first millions in revenue. And at this moment, the investors decided they want to extract this very first profits. And I was shocked because I thought, okay, I really want to reinvest the money. I want to create new products. I want to invest in growth. So it was pretty clear to me that I was stuck in this situation because I could not stand behind putting more creativity into the success of the company, because I thought it's so stupid if we create value to create purpose for kids, but then misusing it in a way that the investors would benefit the most, but not the kids. So I really felt, as the creative person behind, I felt kind of misused. So both was locked our IP because it was already in the company, so I could not extract it, and I'm really obsessed to bring design to the very essence, and the problem with that is that you cannot really change something without making it worse. So the IP was within the company, and I could not take it out, and I was kind of locked in my creativity because I was not willing to invest more into this purpose when the investors hold the power.
And you had given, just to underline that, you had given away 66%. So there were two investors, and you each had 33%, which in retrospect is crazy. But I mean, if you think you're a 21-year-old designer and you have no idea about business, why not, right?
Yeah.
Can you?
And I think there's another thing to it, that Steward-Ownership is very back in 2016. I did not know about it. No one knew about it, and I think still just a few people know about it. Did you hear about Steward-Ownership before this panel? I don't know, maybe a few of you.
Yeah, about ownership. So you were stuck. You had these investors who would tell you what to do, and you had no chance to do. So now you're sitting here talking about ownership. What happened, and how did you? So
I needed to find loads of money to pay out the investors, and this was the only way.
Stephan told us last night the multiple, and we almost fell. Well, we did fall off the chair. It was so insanely high.
It was 100x in the end. So I think it was a brilliant VC case, you could say, but not to the benefit of our original purpose. So I needed to find money to pay them out, but conventional money would not solve the problem because, again, money equals power, so I would not be able to decide on the major decision making. So I needed to find another funding, and I was very lucky to find the Purpose Foundation and the funds in order to help me pay out the investors and become free in the end, because we used to say, how could we stand for free play if we are not free as a company? So I think it really meets our purpose. I would not say it's for every business, but for us, it is really at the core of what we want to do.
And so what you did was you split money and power, right?
Yeah.
You are in power, you are in charge, you and your co-founder, and the money is separated from that, and the money does not have any powers, meaning we as an investor, we invested in you, but we have nothing to say other than, hi, how are you?
Exactly, because it's kind of weird. Why should the people that have most money have the best knowledge and competences to decide on where the company should go for? Yeah. So that's kind of a weird mix. Yeah. It's so easy to count money and to separate the voting power with that, but I think there's an error in the system.
I think it also underlines something that Emma mentioned. So investors are important. They are important experts, business partners, people that companies need. But the relationship has to be very clear. And in your case, the relationship was very clear because they could overpower everything. And you tried to find a way that the investors were partners, right? Mm-hmm. What did you do? Can you tell us the solution a little bit?
Yeah, and we have a similar structure. So we separate the voting rights from the economic rights. So we were able to create a structure that we didn't really realize how radical it was within UK law, because everything in company law makes a company serve its shareholders before its purpose. But we have an amazing community of investors who hold non-voting shares or very restricted voting shares. And then the power and the decision-making stays within the directors of the company, so those who are the day-to-day and they know the reality of the businesses, and they can call on the investors for advice, but they don't have this kind of ability to really potentially steer the company down a path which is a long way from the mission. And then we have a real safeguard, which we call the guardian share, which as co-founders, we now step more and more into this role of the guardian, a bit like a wise grandmother, we say. 10 years ago, we started this business with this soul, and we can keep it intact. So yeah, if a major strategic decision was made, for example, to sell the company, we hold the right to veto if it's really against the mission.
Yeah. I was mentioning before that we have 3 companies here, but the line would be very, very long, and in that line there would be companies like Patagonia, like Novo Nordisk from Denmark, Carlsberg, so big foundation companies that did the same. They essentially cut money and power. And I recently talked to someone at Patagonia, and they said, when we went through that transition, it changed everything and nothing at all. And Pollien, we had a similar conversation. I would like to know, so what changed now after all your grandmother talks? Did something change? Or?
Well, I think if you ask my colleagues, they say nothing changed. Everything is still the same. And that was also what we wanted to do. So the founders gave away the company. So we also now have a structure of foundations that own the company, that own voting rights and economic rights. But we were very clear that we wanted to, because Voys is a for-profit business. We're a commercial venture, we're in a competitive market, so we need to stay lean, we need to stay sharp. So that was always a goal, that to not clog this fast speedboat of a company you have in this competitive market. So the people that work in there and that have all the business knowledge, they still do their work in the same way that they did before. I think the big difference is in the outside world. I had a presentation about this a while ago, and afterwards an entrepreneur came up to me. I explained what we were going to do and the whole system around it, and he was kind of disappointed. So he came up to me and he said, yeah, it sounds really interesting, but it kind of feels like you're doing a lot of work to keep everything the way it is. And I said, that's exactly what we're doing. We want to keep everything the way it is because we're very happy with the way Voys is. We believe in an equal way of working together. We believe that the profit and the value that Voys generates belongs to the business and to our wider mission. We have a foundation that gets revenue. We have a new foundation that's going to impact invest. That's where the money should go. But a traditional shareholder structure doesn't allow that, because there's like these assumptions in there that if you're a shareholder, you own the value of the company. And I think that's a paradigm that we need to break.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Was there anything that, maybe to all of you, anything that was specifically hard about the transition that you would have liked to know before?
I mean, obviously I would have liked to know the model before founding. So if you're thinking of founding a company, please take care of the way you found the company, and that you think about ownership. Yeah.
I think for us it was, this felt, again, very natural model for us. It was a way to safeguard the mission and values for the long term, but we didn't realize that the funding landscape, even impact funds, crowd funds, they are not compatible with it. And so we, without realizing, made our job really difficult to find really aligned investors, because the investment landscape is not there yet. Mm-hmm. And I've now stepped back from the day-to-day running of the company to basically work on that problem and work within funders and investors to change their fiduciary duties and change their legal structures so that much more capital can flow to this kind of company.
Yeah, I think we also talked about that it's still, I have to explain that Voys is a for-profit company, because as soon as I start talking about this type of ownership model, people assume that you're a foundation, you're a non-profit, and especially if you talk to investors, VCs, they kind of go like, that's nice. But the whole idea that a for-profit company that cares about the world around them can't be profitable and can't strive for the best business model you have, I think that's something that we need to break. That's this old shareholder value paradigm that as long as you generate huge profits for your shareholders, you have a successful business. It's the other way around. You have a very good purpose and a very good business model which generates money. And we should think about where that money should go and leave that old paradigm that has been disproven multiple times, but it's still so much there, and it's holding companies like yours back in getting the investments in.
Yeah, and if you think about that in that line, if you look at these principles, power unequals money, it's actually a very ancient understanding of ownership, right? Us being the stewards of something, stewarding what the earth gave us, or if you look at some other companies in this line, it would be Bosch and Zeiss, very old German foundation companies that have survived 2 world wars and some dictators and are still there because of the ownership structure, right? We unfortunately ran out of time, so I would love to thank all of you. I would love to thank you guys. I want to have one last idea or one last thought. We saw steward ownership, what we call steward ownership or alternative ownership, is very multifaceted. We have very different companies who pursue this and who do this. It is a concept that has a lot of potential for us as a society, for employees, for customers, for investors. For us, it's very important that people know about this. And for us, it's so crazy that it takes brave forerunners like these guys, like all these other companies that would sit here, to do this and to try this out and to take the very hard path of learning it in order for it to become easier. So thank you so much for your work. Thank you so much for your time. And if you have questions, we're around after. Thanks.